In 1994, the entire Seattle music scene was literally falling apart. The grunge movement that changed everything, it was basically over and leaving behind a total mess. But then, one band, Soundgarden, dropped an album that didn't just save them, it changed rock music forever. This album went to #1, sold millions of copies, and won them the biggest awards in music. But this isn't what you think. This is the insane story of Superunknown, the album that made Soundgarden legends, but it also almost destroyed them. Because behind all the fame and money was a lead singer fighting unimaginable depression, who somehow turned his absolute worst moments into one of the greatest albums of all time. To understand how crazy Superunknown is, you need to see what was happening. Soundgarden was already a giant band because of their last album, Bad Motorfinger. It went platinum, which is insane, but it also meant they were stuck on tour non-stop while the entire world was staring at Seattle. The city was under constant, insane pressure. It went from a small town of friends making music to the center of the rock universe. Every band, including Soundgarden, was expected to be the next Nirvana, and the pressure was huge. But that wasn't even the craziest part. For the lead singer, Chris Cornell, the real fight was in his own head. Chris had battled insane depression and anxiety for his entire life. We're talking so bad that as a teenager, he literally wouldn't leave his house for months. So when the band got famous, it just got worse. Imagine being one of the biggest rock stars on the planet with this incredible voice, but secretly you can't handle being around people. He literally said that being depressed for so long started to feel normal. And this complete chaos is what created Superunknown. The band knew their last album was heavy, but they wanted to do something bigger, weirder, and way more epic. They just needed the songs, and Chris Cornell, in the middle of his darkest time, was about to write the biggest hits of his life. So the band goes into the studio with this new producer, Michael Beinhorn, who was known for being super intensive. Beinhorn immediately saw that Chris was trying to write songs he thought the fans wanted to hear. And the producer literally said, "No, stop that. Write what's actually inside your head." And that's all it took. Chris just exploded with creativity. He started writing these unbelievably raw and honest songs about his anxiety and depression. He literally turned his pain into hit songs. And the rest of the band stepped up big time. Kim Tylen's guitars were insane, Ben Shepherd's bass lines were crazy complex, and Matt Cameron's drumming was next level. They were doing stuff nobody else was doing, like using weird guitar tunings and insane time signatures like the one in Spoon Man. The music was just as dark and strange as the lyrics, but it was also beautiful. The recording sessions were completely insane as well. The producer was obsessed with getting the perfect sound, layering tons of guitars and drums to make everything sound massive. And Chris gave everything to his vocals. For their biggest song, Black Hole Sun, he was so obsessed with getting the emotion right that the producer just left him in the room to record completely by himself. That's how dedicated he was. They ended up with an album that sounds gigantic, but also feels like he's whispering right in your ear. Listening to Superunknown is like finding Chris Cornell's secret diary. Every single song is a peek inside his brain. First you have Fell on Black Days. Chris had the title for years, but couldn't write the song. It's all about how depression can just hit you out of nowhere for no reason. He said that was the scariest thing in the world to him. The lyric, "Whatsoever I feared has come to life," is one of the most famous lines in rock history for a reason. Then there's "The Day I Tried to Live." It sounds like a super fun rock song, right? Wrong. The lyrics are about how exhausting it is just to pretend to be normal and go outside when you're dealing with crippling anxiety. It's literally about forcing yourself to live your life. And you can't forget the biggest song on the album, Black Hole Sun. Get this, Chris heard a news anchor say something weird, misheard it as Black Hole Sun, and wrote the entire song in 15 minutes. He thought it was way too strange to be a single hit. But that creepy song and its insane music video became one of the biggest songs of the 90s. But the darkest song is easily Like Suicide. And the story is crazy. A bird flew into his window, and Chris went outside and put it out of its misery with a brick. He turned that insane dark moment into a whole song about life and death. It's a heavy one, but it showed how he could find meaning in literally anything. So on March 8th, 1994, they released Superunknown, and it immediately debuts at #1 on the charts. It sold over 310,000 copies in its first week. This thing was a rocket ship. Black Hole Sun and Spoon Man were on the radio and MTV 24/7. They were nominated for Best Rock Album and even went on to win 2 Grammys. But here's the crazy twist. This incredibly successful album was built on Chris Cornell's private pain, and now millions of people were listening to it. He turned his suffering into art, and it made him more famous than ever, which made his anxiety even worse. The tour for the album was brutal, and the fame just amplified every problem the band already had. It's insane to think about. The album that made them the biggest band in the world also literally tore them apart. Just 3 years later, Soundgarden broke up. The thing that brought them all the success was the same thing that destroyed them. Fast forward 30 years, and Superunknown is still an absolute masterpiece. It's not just a grunge album, it's a work of art that completely changed the game. You can hear its influence in so many bands today. But after Chris Cornell's tragic death in 2017, the album feels even more powerful. He was always unbelievably honest about his depression. And when you listen to songs like Fell on Black Days today, it's just different. You're not just listening to lyrics, you're hearing the real story of a guy who fought his demons every single day. And here's the one last crazy fact for you. The album's title, Superunknown, was a total accident. The bassist, Ben Shepherd, misread a label on a video that actually said Super Clown. They thought Superunknown sounded cooler, and it stuck. It was the perfect mistake for an album all about the mysteries of the human mind. Superunknown isn't just a rock album. It's a legendary story of turning pain into power. It's what happens when a band is at the top of their game and a lead singer is brave enough to show the entire world his darkest secrets. Chris Cornell literally showed us his soul, and in return he gave us a masterpiece that people will be listening to forever. This album is the sound of a man fighting his demons and against all odds, winning by creating a #1 album. Which Superunknown song is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want more insane stories about the biggest albums ever, smash that subscribe button.